All right, let's talk about how to change your life fast. Like if you want to flip the switch in your life and go from where you're at right now to the most successful version of yourself, or at least a more successful version of yourself, what can you do immediately to make that happen? I've got 5 things I'm going to talk about in this, and I've got them all typed up in my notepad here, so I'm going to be glancing over there, my friends. But these are things that I went through myself in my transformation, and I haven't really talked a whole lot about that. I grew up feeling really bad about myself. Like I had a lot of depression issues as a teenager. I'm an ADHD, INTP, visionary. If you guys are into Myers Briggs, and um, I was very hard to relate to as a kid. So it made me feel very lonely as a kid. And I'm sure a lot of you guys probably are coming to this feeling the same way, especially if you're like, I want to change my life, man. You're probably feeling like you're just not in the right box, right? And you don't want to be in a box at all. You're positioned in a box and you've been conditioned to live in a box and you're like, I want out of this. I want freedom. Totally get that. That was me. And I really didn't kind of break out of that till I was in my early 30s. I still kind of always like, even in my early 30s, I still like had a lot of self doubt. I had a lot of limiting beliefs. I had a lot of trauma growing up in a divorced family and being one of a kind, not feeling like I had a place. My mom married my stepdad, who's engineer minded. He's awesome. He's great. But we don't think alike. Like there are certain things that we agree upon, and then certain things that I operate by feel. He operates more by logic, and I'm definitely like jump in head first, and he's definitely like, hey, let's study this out, research it. And so that created some like psychological issues for me as a teenager because I was just like, man, I don't even like I don't even fit in with my dad. Like my dad, my stepdad, I don't even like we don't relate on a lot of things. Anyway, I'm through all that. Like I've dealt with that. But it was really like my early 30s when I really like came to terms with who I am and my strengths and my expertise and my superpowers of the ADHD brings to the equation. And that's when I was able to change. And I've gone through a couple of transformations, but that's really when I went from having a limited belief mindset, like really struggling, to really getting it dialed in, like really being able to focus hard and grow a business. I don't want to spend a ton of time just talking about my past drama. I really want to get into this. But before I do, again, welcome you guys. If you're brand new to the channel, this is a channel where I legitimately just have stream of consciousness type of flow. I don't edit this content. And so if you want editable content, you want edited content, you can go over to my other channel, the Raffiti channel, Raffiti. You can check out that stuff there. I talk about some entrepreneurship, mostly creator economy stuff, because that's my business. I own a company called Raffiti Media. We're a done-for-you YouTube agency for business owners. We help business owners grow their social media accounts, their YouTube accounts, and help them generate leads and revenue with YouTube. Pretty cool, huh? All right, let's dive in. All right, so number one, if you want to see immediate change, you have to start thinking on a different plane. So you have to recognize this is, you guys, like, this is the biggest problem most people have, is that most people think that the way that they think right now is how they've always thought, because that's how they think right now. It's like, I've always thought this way. I've always been this person. They don't realize that our thought patterns, our mind evolves. And if you want a good example of that, like the woke mind virus is a great example of that. How many people have you seen who are one way 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and they are completely different now? And they're going to be like, no, I've always thought this way. I just, never could admit it until it was okay to admit it. And I'm like, no, you didn't. You were influenced. We're influenced every single day. To acknowledge that is to acknowledge that you think on one plane. And if you want to be more successful, you have to learn to think on another plane. Now, the way that we learn to think on another plane can come from information. It comes from input that enters into our brain. It can come from relationships. It can come from other people that we're hanging out with. It can come from opportunity, taking just all of a sudden flipping a switch and taking advantage. I'm watching, taking advantage of opportunity. I'm watching a show right now on Hulu. It's called Interior Chinatown. And basically, it's a very creative show, but basically uh, it's about the NPCs that are background characters in a television show who essentially have no role other than just be NPCs and do their job, do their work, and they come to life. The NPCs come to life, and then they become part of the main storyline of this show, of this fictional show that's being created on in this series. I didn't explain that very well at all, but just look it up. Interior Chinatown. It's really good, like very interesting. But the main character realizes that he's meant for more, and it gives him this epiphany that maybe there is more out there. Maybe there are ways for him to tap into this, whatever it is that will get him more. You have to realize that the exact same thing happens to us at every aspect of life. The difference between you and a self-made billionaire, like somebody who started from zero and made $1 billion, isn't necessarily education. It's not intelligence. I mean, in some cases it is, but sometimes it's just straight up stubbornness. Sometimes it's just seeing things through. And so a lot of times, like, and I've heard this a lot of times throughout my life. I'm like, I want to be a billionaire. I want to make $1 billion. And then I'll have people be like, nah, you don't have what it takes. You weren't born with a silver spoon in your mouth. And until you see how life and success actually works, everybody has a tendency to believe that. But when you realize that almost all of your success comes because of willpower, the power of your mind, that's when things shift. You'll stay stuck until you really start to believe that. And then once you believe that, you'll see the walls are torn down and life opens up. So you have to understand that you're thinking on one linear plane, and how do I get to that next plane? Okay. So number 2, how do you get to that next plane? You have to eliminate the bad influences in your life, the things that you're doing, the activities that you're doing that are keeping you stuck, the people that you're hanging out with that are keeping you stuck, the family members that you're listening to that are trying to hold you back, the teachers at school who are telling you you won't amount to anything, or that if you get an F in a class, that means that you're a failure in life. Horrible, like horrible. An F meaning failure. F meaning failure in school. What kind of conditioning is that? Like a kid gets an F and it's failure. Like you're literally, every time a kid gets an F, you're literally labeling them a failure. What does that do to a young child's psyche? It's internalized. Our brains at that age internalize everything. We're a freaking sponge. If I get a report card that has 15 Fs on it, that's a lot of classes, number 1. If I have a report card that has 5 Fs on it, I failed. What is that? What am I going to think about myself? I'm not going to think that I'm a successful student. I'm not going to think I'm successful in life. That's going to cause a lot of depression. This is why, one of the reasons why I'm like, grading scale is like, grades are a joke. Like, of course we have to learn things, but I mean, geez, like making people feel like they don't amount to anything because they get it. They don't do well as a cog in a wheel does not necessarily mean that they're a failure for life. You got to get that out of your head. So it's undoing conditioning. You have to eliminate bad influences and undo conditioning. So where can you go to get the right conditioning? You go to the people who are actually successful. And either 1, pay them to be mentors. 2, ask them if you can just have some conversations. 3, try to exchange some value with them so you can get some value back. But I in all honesty, you guys, like I get hit up all the time. It's like, hey, can I do this for you? Can I do that for you? And I just don't have the time to respond to everybody. And so that's where, like, from the perspective of somebody who's trying to get my attention, trying to get me to mentor them, unless they join one of our groups or something like that. That's like number one way. Like the more you pay attention. If you pay for something, you'll take it seriously. Anytime I've ever given out free advice, nobody, like, they don't take that advice seriously and they don't incorporate it. So it's like, why would I even give things out for free anymore? Where I went. So here's where I went. I started reading books when I was in my early 20s. Rich Dad Poor Dad was the first personal development book I ever read, and it was mind-boggling. I still had a lot of mental issues, a lot of trauma that I had to undo, and that came from other books and other resources. I read a lot. I watched movies back in the early 2000s before social media. Like, I watched The Secret, and even though, like, I don't want people to religious folks to like hear The Secret and think like, oh, you replace God with The Secret. No, I don't. I didn't. But The Secret, when I watched that movie, that Rhonda Byrne movie, Bob Proctor movie, changed my way of thinking. And I started thinking differently about success, always planning on the eventuality that I'd become successful. And eventually I did. Because I was eliminating bad influences, the things that were keeping me held down, and incorporating good influences, things that would get me closer to those goals. So fill your mind with good influences. Like, immediately, you have to eliminate the bad influences. You got to stop. You got to stop wasting your time playing video games 24/7. You got to stop wasting your time watching Netflix. You've got to stop hanging out with friends that are dragging you down. You've got to stop with negative influences that are holding you back. And you have to fill those things immediately, because as soon as you stop doing that, a void opens up. A massive void opens up, a vacuum. And nature abhors a vacuum. Like, if there is a hole, a vacuum, that will be filled. It will be filled with something. And if you can control what it's filled with, then you can control your success. You can control your outcome. But if you don't, it'll be filled. You'll regress. You'll fall back into old patterns. All right, number 3, you have to be comfortable in discomfort. You have to acknowledge, if you want change, immediate change, you have to acknowledge it's going to be very, very emotionally traumatizing. It's going to suck. And I cannot state that any further. You're going to feel lonely. You're going to feel depressed. You're going to feel ostracized because your friends are going to be pissed at you. You're going to feel like you have nobody in your corner. And so you have to acknowledge that that's coming. You got to acknowledge it. And very, very few people can mentally hack that. It's true. Everybody wants to be loved. Everybody wants to feel welcome. Everybody wants to feel like a part of a community or like they belong somewhere. As soon as that's stripped away, as soon as you self-inflict that on yourself, you're gonna be like, what have I done? What have I done? This is why businesses fail, you guys. Like, people will start a business and then they don't psychologically prepare for it. And it's emotionally taxing on them, and they quit. They don't fail, they quit. They revert. They go back to what they were, just with less money, sometimes bankrupt. You have to acknowledge that, and you have to be comfortable with that discomfort. I live in discomfort now, 24/7. I'm always looking for ways to elevate the plane that I'm on. And all of my friends are also doing the exact same thing. They're all elevating the plane that they're on. They're all stepping. They're all on that escalator, right? They all want to grow. And so we have conversations. When I have conversations with my friends, it is all growth. What are you doing? What do you got going on? What are you investing in? What's your strategy for business? How are you marketing? How are you doing X, Y, Z? Everything is about growth. And we're all in discomfort 24/7. You just learn how to exist in it. And it's great. It feels amazing. You feel extremely powerful. All right, number 4, you have to take action. And I'm not just talking about like, well, I took one little action, make me rich. I took one little action. I made a video on YouTube. I want to be rich. When am I going to get 100,000 subscribers for my one video on YouTube? It's not about one little action. One little action, anybody can take one little action, right? It's like you can take one little action. I'm like trying to think of an analogy. It's not coming to me. Anybody can take one little action. Most of the time it's extended action. Can you take action when you're depressed? Can you take action when you're lonely? Can you take action when you're in complete chaos internally? That's when it matters most. Anybody can take action to like burn the bridges behind them, right? You can quit your job tomorrow, and it's like if you don't have a plan put in place, you're going to be in utter chaos. You're going to be feeling it the next day. And so you took the action to quit, right? Took the action to stop doing what you're doing. You're like burning bridges. Now you got to take extended action to see it through. And a lot of the times the extended action that we take, we don't even know if it's going to work, right? Until you do it a few times, you have no idea if that extended action is even going to work. You have no idea. You're operating in faith. And I think that that's key to it, right? It's like you have to, our Father in heaven, my Father in heaven, it's scriptural, you guys. Faith without works is dead. But also, if you take one little simple action, you can have as much faith as you want, but you're not going to get anywhere unless like miracles happen. And that has happened. What I'm saying, extended action. Be willing to take extended action. And number 5, you have to outlast the pain. This is why 99.9% of people fail, or I don't want to say fail, they quit. It's because the pain becomes unbearable. It's too hard. It's too hard. You have to outlast the pain. How many of you guys, I'd love to hear from you. How many of you guys have tried something new? You get going, it becomes painful, so you back off. And then you do it again. It becomes a pattern over and over and over again. It's because you're not outlasting the pain or the fear, right? Pain and fear, come from, similar place. You're not outlasting your fear. You're allowing that to control you. Success and changing your life instantly is about getting to the point in your life where there is no amount of pain, no amount of fear that can hold you back from your dream, because you know that you are meant for your dream. And then what ends up happening is once you outlast the pain and the fear and you do all these other things, that next plane is the only option for you. It becomes a part of you. You have become worthy of it. You have achieved that next level. That's how you change your life instantly. That's how you change your life, you guys. Hey, I've got some resources down below. If you guys are business owners and you're like, I want to learn how to blow up my business. Well, guess what? I have a resource for that. I've got a call to action guide. Link in the comments. We got like 30 some calls to actions that you can just copy and paste into your scripts. And then if you say those in your videos, then you have a higher likelihood of converting people, lead magnets. Also, I've got some cool tools and some affiliate links. So take a look down there. Thanks, guys. See you tomorrow. Bye.